The geopolitical tension between the two world powers, China and the United States, has gradually evolved into something dangerous. This tension has led to the innovation of lethal weapons that has never been put to use. These weapons have the potential to wipe out the entire planet, and a little tip in the wrong direction might spill everything over and lead to the Third World War. A recent event between the Chinese hypersonic missile and Gerald R. Ford has left the world in suspense as they wait for the United States to retaliate. What transpired between these two powerful nations? What is the repercussion of this event? Join us as we delve into the situation that led to the sinking of the Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier. The U.S. Gerald R. Ford is renowned for its unrivaled capabilities, and almost no weapon is known to have the ability to destroy or even come against it. That was what the world thought until recent developments that has made everyone speechless. China's recent claims that it has the capacity to sink the United States Navy most advanced carrier was initially met with criticism and was dismissed by other nations, including Taiwan. The claim was seen as an effort to increase the public confidence and counter ongoing Chinese intimidation tactics. Recently, a research article by scholars who are involved with the People's Liberation Army-backed North University of China revealed that a war game has shown the ability of the Chinese hypersonic missile to sink the USS Gerald R. Ford with absolute certainty. This was the first time the Chinese simulation involving hypersonic strikes on a U.S. aircraft carrier was disclosed to the public. The simulation is thought to have utilized Dongfeng 21D and Dongfeng 26 ballistic missiles. These missiles are commonly referred to as carrier killers due to their intended targeting of mobile naval vessels. When Taiwanese military wargame experts conducted a war simulation, like the one done by a Chinese university, they got totally different results. Lin Chuan-kai from Taiwan's defense ministry said their outcomes were not the same as what the Chinese researchers claimed. According to their results, only 2 ships out of the 6 in the United States Navy carrier strike group were affected in the simulation. This information is extremely different from the reported 5.6 ship losses that the Chinese researchers projected. The Institute's result shows that the Chinese missiles would only be successful in sinking most of the U.S. flotilla if the ships were not moving. Additionally, the hit ratio for their air defense missile systems was set unrealistically low, and the carrier's other defensive capabilities, including electronic interference and decoy systems to counter-attacking warheads, were deactivated during the simulation. In a presentation to reporters, Lin stated that it would be possible to attain such exaggerated results in a simulation if the parameters are set to be unrealistic. Nimitz and Ford-class carriers are extremely large warships on the sea, but they aren't slow. Their nuclear reactors make them move at 35 miles or 56 kilometers per hour. Even though they're massive, it is very hard to detect or follow them in the open ocean. In 30 minutes after a sighting by an opponent, the area within which a carrier might be operating will expand to 900 square miles, and this will increase to around 4,000 square miles after 60 minutes. They also don't need refueling, unlike conventionally powered carriers. If a missile like DF-21D, which goes really fast, is fired at a supercarrier from its farthest distance of 1,450 kilometers or 900 miles, it would take the missile about 7 minutes to reach the target. Between this period, the carrier can make defensive moves, even at the last moment, to avoid getting hit. It's much harder to hit a moving supercarrier compared to one that's staying still. On Friday, June 18, 2021, the USS Gerald R. Ford successfully completed the first scheduled explosive event as part of full ship shock trials. The U.S. military detonated a 20-ton bomb next to the new aircraft carrier. The explosion was so powerful that it registered 3.9 on the Richter scale. A blast can occur from anti-ship missiles, naval mines, torpedoes, or even other ships nearby that get hit by enemy weaponry. FSSTs include validation of almost everything, including the hardiness of onboard computer systems to nuclear reactor elements. Ford successfully completed the third and final scheduled explosive event for full ship shock trials on August 8, 2021. During the 4-month testing evolution, the aircraft carrier withstood the impact of 3 underwater explosions, released at several distances progressively closer to the warship. After all these tests that turned out positively well, it would be hard to destroy an American aircraft, and an impact would only be possible if it is a direct hit. This does not give a credible explanation to why China revealed an information that is not entirely true, but some people believe that it is likely a part of the nation's cognitive warfare campaign, a strategic effort aimed at influencing and manipulating the cognitive processes, beliefs, perceptions, and decision-making of targeted individuals or groups. One thing is certain: China is definitely fixated on defeating the United States for known reasons. Let's have a look at some causes of the tension between these two regions and how it stemmed from the South China Sea. The entire South China Sea is a strategic waterway through which trade worth trillions of dollars happens annually. China claims that anything and everything that comes inside the dashed line is theirs. Some of the countries in this region are Vietnam, Taiwan, and the Philippines. On the 25th of June 2023, the Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier visited Da Nang, Vietnam, and this event marked the 3rd visit since the Vietnam War ended. The 3-ship group stayed for 6 days, including USS Ronald Reagan, USS Robert Smalls, and USS Antietam. The Navy, usually secretive about port visit durations for security reasons, initially didn't disclose how long the visit would be. Prior to this visit, the USS Carl Vinson visited in 2018, and then the USS Theodore Roosevelt in 2020. This recent visit has made China concerned and upset for obvious reasons. It looks like the United States is trying to make friends with Vietnam to stand against China. Having a US base in the South China Sea would be handy because their warships would have everything it needs for an attack and wouldn't need to go all the way back to Japan, Guam, or Hawaii for supplies or repairs. Vietnam is also being cautious concerning its new relationship with the US, but it is also aware of the value and potential of its alliance with the United States. Vietnam shares an 806-mile-long border with China, and the two countries traditionally do not get along. China invaded Vietnam in 1979 and immediately suffered heavy casualties, causing Beijing to pull out and declare victory just after a month. The two countries also disagree about who owns what in the South China Sea, especially when it comes to drilling rights. If they end up in a war, China's upgraded military will be a tough opponent, so Vietnam would want friends on its side. To clear the air about the regular visits of the United States aircraft carrier, Vietnamese media mentioned that the visit was aimed at celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Vietnam-US Comprehensive Partnership established in July 2013 and had nothing to do with plans against China. The Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier's first visit was because China had sent a survey ship into Vietnam's exclusive economic zone in the South China Sea in May 2023, and this movement led Vietnam to protest. Obviously, China's actions were to politically pressure Vietnam, showing them that despite their alliances with the United States, they are pretty much on their own when it boils down to dealing with Chinese aggression. The most important question is if Vietnam's naval bases can help in dealing with the complicated relationship with China. After years of conflict, Vietnam was tired, and when it gained freedom in 1975, the Soviet Union offered friendship to access the South. Vietnam said no to avoid upsetting China, but later realized even cooperating with China didn't prevent them from aiding the Khmer Rouge and attacking Vietnam. So, Vietnam began opening its naval bases to others. In November of 1978, it was these Sovietization moves by Vietnam that led the United States to accelerate the normalization of relations with China, which happened on January 1, 1979, to create an unofficial alliance against the Soviet Union and the world socialist system. Before Chinese leader Mao Zedong passed away in 1976, he did not only go against the Soviet Union, but also rejected the global socialist system. He introduced the Three Worlds theory, where the first world included superpowers like the US and the Soviet Union, the second world had developing powers, and the third world comprised exploited nations in Africa, Latin America, and much of Asia. After opposing the Soviet Union and the socialist system, Deng Xiaoping visited the United States in late January 1979 to discuss a potential attack on Vietnam by China. During this talk, Deng clarified that China would attack to counter Soviet expansion in the region. While officially, Carter advised against it, in reality, the United States supported China's aggression by providing satellite information on Soviet troops near the Sino-Soviet border. After the fighting broke out, Brzezinski, Carter's national security advisor, met Chinese Ambassador Chai Zaman each afternoon to give him his intelligence. In a Chinese Communist Party Central Committee plenum held in March of 1979, Deng Xiaoping said that the United States had informed him that none of the 54 Soviet divisions at the Sino-Soviet border was fully equipped. This intelligence clearly made China determined to implement its plan to invade Vietnam without fear of military retaliation by the Soviet Union. Likewise, China would not dare to conduct a large-scale war against Vietnam if the US-Vietnam relationship was normalized. The lesson that Vietnam took from this was that a diplomatic relationship and military alliance with the United States could have helped avoid the 1979 invasion of China and could still prevent future aggressions from this nation. Let's go into the reasons why China is extremely committed to continue pursuing their objective of taking over the South China Sea. The issue starts with China believing it owns almost everything in the South China Sea. Air Force Senior Colonel Tian Junli stated, "China unquestionably owns the South China Sea islands and nearby waters. China considers Taiwan as a self-ruled region that will eventually come under Beijing's control. President Xi Jinping insists on reunification with Taiwan, even hinting at using force if necessary. Note that Taiwan is an island about 100 miles from southeast China's coast. It's part of the First Island Chain, a group of places friendly to the US that matters for US foreign policy. If China were to control Taiwan, some Western experts think it might have more freedom to exert influence in the Western Pacific and could even pose a threat to US military bases, like those in Guam and Hawaii. But China insists that its intentions are purely peaceful. Taiwan first came under full Chinese control in the 17th century when the Qing dynasty began administering it. Then, in 1895, they gave up the island to Japan after losing the First Sino-Japanese War. China took the island again in 1945 after Japan lost World War II, but a civil war erupted in mainland China between nationalist government forces led by Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong's Communist Party. The Communists won in 1949 and took control of Beijing. Kai-shek and what was left of the Nationalist Party, known as Kuomintang, fled to Taiwan, where they ruled for the next several decades. China points to this history to say that Taiwan was originally a Chinese province, but the Taiwanese point to the same history to argue that they were never part of the modern Chinese state that was first formed after the revolution in 1911, or the People's Republic of China that was established under Mao in 1949. Taiwan is extremely important because most of the world's everyday electronic equipment and gadgets, from phones to laptops, watches, and gaming consoles, is powered by computer chips that are made in Taiwan. A single Taiwanese company, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, has over half of the world's market control over one of the world's most important industries, which would give Beijing a huge advantage over the rest of the world. Being such a small island standing in front of a country so powerful, Taiwan can only slow down an impending attack, but not evade it fully. At best, it could slow down a Chinese attack by mounting guerrilla attacks onshore while waiting for outside help, and this help is likely to come from the US on July 3, 2023, A video circulated online showing a Chinese warship within 150 yards of a U.S. destroyer in the Taiwan Strait in an unsafe manner. On the other hand, China blamed the United States for deliberately provoking risk in the region. A month before then, the U.S. and Canadian navies were conducting a joint exercise in the strait when the Chinese ship cut in front of the U.S. guided missile destroyer Chung Hoon, forcing it to slow down to avoid a collision. In the mid-1990s, China built a small structure on stilts over a coral reef in the South China Sea, just 217 kilometers from the coast of the Philippines' Palawan Island. At the time, Beijing reassured Manila that the structure at Mischief Reef, a platform topped by 4 octagonal structures with a Chinese flag waving overhead, was merely a fisherman's shelter. It's obvious now that it was planning something much larger. In December 2016, a U.S. think tank, the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, released satellite photos showing just how far things have progressed on the reef, part of the Spratly Archipelago. According to the AMTI, the reef now features large anti-aircraft guns and probable close-in weapons. China controls 6 other reefs turned islands in the Spratlys, and the latest images show that similar defensive systems have recently cropped up on those too. This is militarization. AMTI Director Greg Poling responded. He added that the Chinese can argue that it's only for defensive purposes, but if you are building giant anti-aircraft guns and CIW's emplacements, it means that you're prepping for a future conflict. In case a war was to occur between these two regions, can China withstand the advanced force of the United States? Well, technically, it can. China, recognizing the tension for what it is, has begun preparing itself for unexpected attacks. Such weapons include the Dongfeng 5, which was early shown in the war video simulation. The Dongfeng 5 is a Chinese intercontinental ballistic missile with 2 stages. It's about 38.5 meters long, has a diameter of 4.08 meters, and weighs 300,000 kilograms. It's estimated to have a range of 7,000 to 10,000 kilometers. The missile had its first flight in 1971 and became operational 10 years after its first flight. The missile was created by Tu Shui at the China Academy of Launch Technology, with Li Shui as the deputy chief designer. It was manufactured at China's Factory 211, also known as the Capital Machine Factory. Asides missile, China also has a powerful aircraft carrier in its possession. The Fujian is the 3rd aircraft carrier in China's program. It's the first of the type, 003 class. It was built by Jiangnan Shipyard for the People's Liberation Army Navy and was launched on June 17, 2022, and is currently undergoing final preparations as of January 2024. It is China's first aircraft carrier that features an integrated propulsion system and 3 electromagnetic catapults that makes it different from the ski-jump flight decks that were present on the previous Chinese aircraft carriers. It is also the first Chinese aircraft carrier to use catapults for helping planes take off. It has 3 electromagnetic catapults, 2 at the front and 1 at the back near the angled landing deck exit. There's speculation that the carrier may have defensive weapons on side platforms beneath the flight deck, like air defense missile pods and close-in weapon systems. China is also in the process of developing its stealthy drone. The CH-7 drone that is designed to improve its performance in information-based warfare has undergone tests and is set to complete development this year. Chinese experts anticipate the drone's debut at the upcoming Airshow China in November. With its flying wing design ensuring high stealth and extended range, the CH-7 was introduced at Airshow China 2018, captivating both experts and the public. 4 years later, an upgrade was showcased at Airshow China 2020. It had designs that were to meet the needs of potential clients in future warfare. The new drone has a 26-meter wingspan, 4 meters longer than the original, and can reach a service ceiling of 15 kilometers compared to the original's 10 to 13 kilometers. This upgrade allows it to fly higher, stay longer in missions, focus on continuous reconnaissance in risky areas, and detect potential threats for an extended period, as explained by Shi Wen, the chief engineer of the CH series drone at Airshow China 2022. It weighs up to 10 tons when taking off. The CH-7 can carry big missiles or guide other weapons to hit important enemy targets. Its sneaky design helps reduce the distance at which enemy radar can spot it, making it harder for the enemy's anti-air weapons to target it. This enhances its effectiveness in information-based combat. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.